All right, let's move on to Terminator Genisys, which is a really disliked movie. But man, I'm going to tell you what. I went into this thing in the theaters and I came out and I was just like, dude, I had a fucking blast. I'm a big fan of the Terminator series, so if you think my opinion's shit because I'll dig this movie, I don't really care. I think it's fucking rad. So I rewatched it thinking, okay, am I going to enjoy it as much this time? Absolutely. I thought this was just so fucking fun. Now, I will say this when it comes to Genisys, because this was the first movie in a planned trilogy. God, I really wish I could have saw what would have been next, but I guess no one cared enough. Oh well. So one thing I think the biggest mistake this movie made, besides being PG-13, was the trailers. Oh my god. I don't think I've ever seen a trailer give more away than Terminator Genisys trailer. I cannot believe that they gave away the reveal of John Connor being a Terminator in the trailer. I remember watching it and being like, whoa, what the fuck, man? That seems like a big moment for the film. And holy shit, is it ever. So when you're sitting there and you're watching the movie, you're just like, wow, dude. Like, you can just see the build. You can see the moment. And you're like, I already know what's going to happen here. Like, wow, that's fucked up. Why'd you do this? There's stuff from the third act in the trailer. There should never be anything from the third act in your trailer. Ever. For any reason. I don't care how bad you need to sell your film. I don't care how shitty your film is. You don't show shit from the third act of your fucking movie. And this is the perfect example because I feel like, would this movie have been, disliked without the trailer if the trailer was something completely different and only showed stuff from the first act? Yeah, probably. It'd probably still be, pretty disliked. But I do think there is a good amount of people who went into this just going, I already know everything that's going to happen. And fuck, man, watch that trailer. It's nutty. Like, deep into the third act, you get stuff. Man, I have a headache. Anyway, all right. So, now, this one ignores 3 and 4. But that's because they're splitting the timeline. So, in this world, that Connor and Kyle Reese are in, Judgment Day happened in 1997. But when Reese is being sent back, he has memories of his birth and of his childhood from later on. And he's like, wait, I don't understand. This is possible. Like, and so because it makes sense though, because this is really a split timeline from 1, which 97 was supposed to be the Judgment Day. And then at the end of T2, they may have stopped it, and we didn't know until, if you consider Rise of the Machines to be canon, then you say, okay, well, they did stop it, but it wasn't for a very long time. It took, maybe like 6 years, I think, before it actually happened. That's inevitable, as the T-800 tells them. And much like Dark Fate. I mean, Dark Fate's going to be doing the same thing here, except for it's going to be set after the events of 2. So, I don't know. Anyways. And I like that they redo the Sarah Connor picture. It's the exact same picture from part 1, except for it's now Emilia Clarke's face over it. I also find it very interesting that Emilia Clarke, or Daenerys Targaryen, and Cersei Lannister both play Sarah Connor in different Terminator movies. I thought that was really cool. And just seeing the whole read. Now, I remember just being in the theater and having such a blast seeing all of the stuff from Terminator 1 being redone. And just like them, now the events are different, of course, where he walks up to the punk gang, where, Bill Paxton, these guys were there, and nice night for a walk, huh? This guy's a couple cans short of a six-pack. That whole exchange is now been changed because there's a Terminator that came back to when Sarah was 9 years old, because now they're sending him back even sooner, and they're creating different, all sorts of different timelines. And I love it. I love that sequence where he comes up and they're fighting in that moment. And then, when Kyle Reese gets there, things are very similar, but they're very different. He gets in there and there's already a freaking T-1000 there. And he slips on the Nikes and he gets the pants and it's all very reminiscent. And yes, it's probably playing on my nostalgia just a little bit, or maybe a lot of bit, but I didn't care. I was just like, this is cool, man. This is cool. Now, really keep this in mind. And this is what I was really impressed with, or kind of, I don't know what word I would want to use here, but I came out of the theater and I was just like, holy shit. Essentially what happened here is they wanted to bring Arnold Schwarzenegger back for this movie. But he's old now. And he's a T-800. What do we got to do? Impressed, I guess would be the word. I was impressed by the fact that essentially this entire movie is written to explain why Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is now old. And the creativity they had to come up with in order to explain that. Like for him to be, older in the 1984 timeline, and then even older, the real Arnold age, by the time they get to 2018. I thought that was cool, and that's his real gray hair color and everything, and I was just like, just writing that his arm skin had been taken off, and it's going to take years to regrow, and he can't go through the time machine because of that, so he's going to take the long way, and he's going to build up, he's going to stock up, and he's going to wait for them down there for all those years, and then when they meet him, he's actually like Arnold age. I thought all that stuff was so cool. It's like, oh wow, they just wrote this to explain how Arnold's old now. How fucking interesting that they had to go down that road. But that's just where creativity comes from, and I think that there's some really, really cool writing in this movie. And I know a lot of people think this writing is shit. I disagree. I just disagree. Another thing that really worked for me in this movie that I just don't even remember working for me in the first one, the first time, should I say, not the first movie, the first time I watched it, the humor. I actually laughed a good amount watching this. I thought that a lot of the jokes really actually landed for me. Also with Sarah, having known that they're supposed to fall in love, and she's meeting this guy that she's destined to be with and has been told she's destined to be with forever. And if she wants to have John Connor, she's going to have to, at least have sex with this guy or whatever. And it's just like the pressure of that, and almost like it takes the romance out of it. Because in the first one, when they meet, they genuinely fall for each other. In this one, it's like, here's the guy you're supposed to fall in love with. Here's the guy who's going to father your kid. And she's like, okay, I can't wait to meet him. It's kind of like an arranged marriage. It's not all that romantic, and it would suck. So I kind of feel bad for her here. Love is seeing the flashbacks of when Pops, which they call her now, because in this one, I don't think this one has such a great relationship between Sarah Connor and Pops. This is what they call him throughout the film, so that's what I'll call him. I love their relationship in this. I just love it. So it's like a father-daughter relationship. I said I've always been a sucker for that shit. I always will be, so there you go. But when they come back and she finds that he's hung, this is a T-800. He's not supposed to have any emotions. He's not supposed to care. That's not his programming. But he hangs up pictures of her in his little hideout. He hangs up pictures of her. He hangs up stuff that she's done when she was a kid up on the wall, like a fucking dad. He's a T-800, and he fucking hung things up. That makes me want to cry. And the way she reacts to it, and she looks at it, and she's just so like, oh, you see? He is my Pops. He saved me. Unfortunately, he couldn't save my dad, but he kind of took over as my dad role. And when he comes and she's looking up through the dock, and you see the legit Terminator for the old, with the the big old sunglasses and everything, that looks dope, dude. That looks exactly like the original. It's just so badass. Although, if he came back to when she was 9, and Sarah is what, 20 something in the first, so like we'll say she's like 21, 22, something in that area. I want to say she's something around there. So like 12 years prior, 84, 72. So why would he be wearing the outfit from 84 in 72? Did they split from there? That doesn't make any sense. Why would he be wearing that outfit? Wonder if that was going to be explained in the further sequels. Did they have that explanation? Shit, I didn't even think of it until right now. Why is he dressed like that back in the 70s? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so there needs to be an explanation there. And oh man, when they come out of the void and she's so hot, man. When she takes off all her clothes and they have to hug up next to each other in the time machine, I'd be like, oh man, that is like the most amount of boob that I think I've ever seen in a shot without nipple. Like, I almost have to believe they either edited the nipple out. I've seen her naked in Game of Thrones a lot, so I know she has nipples. Not like anybody wouldn't, but I know she obviously has nipples, but I know. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about her boobs first, here, but it's a lot of boob with no nipple. She has like her arms over, and they're pushed up, and it looks like a full boob without a nipple on it. I was like, how much more boob can you show without nipple? They digitally edited them out. They had to have. There was so much in that shot. I could never not. I could talk about tits all my fucking life. I swear it never gets old. And I like that when Kyle is thumbprinted, fingerprinted, he's in the data, he's in the system as a 12-year-old kid. I thought that was good. Then John shows up halfway through, and you're like, wait a minute, I know you're a Terminator. Danny Dyson creates Genisys. I thought that was interesting. We also get to see Miles here as well for a second, but we don't focus much on Miles Dyson. So Miles Dyson and the Dyson family was going to be responsible for Judgment Day, inevitably. And when he proves he knows Sarah, wouldn't that be a different timeline, Sarah, with a different life? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is one thing that really doesn't make any sense to me either. So when John. Yeah, when John is explaining to Sarah his memories of her and how she did this and that and blah, 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 John's coming from a timeline from the original timeline. But this is a Sarah from a different timeline. So all the things that he says about her, these feel like things that shouldn't match up with the Sarah as we know it. Like the Sarah that doesn't like lullabies, and the Sarah, like, growing up with a Terminator when she's 9 up, I don't feel like she would have established that she didn't like lullabies by that point. Now, of course, she wouldn't like lullabies being raised by a Terminator, but there's a couple things he says in there that I'm like, I feel like that's the Sarah we know from Terminator 1, but that's not the Terminator, like, and she's like, how could he know that? And it's like, but that doesn't seem like that would be you. That seems like that'd be a different Sarah. So he's proving he knows a different Sarah timeline, not this Sarah's timeline. I don't know. Anybody else feel like that when they watch that? That scene felt wrong to me. I was like, that feels like a different life he's talking about that Sarah wouldn't have had in this alternate timeline. So I'm way overthinking it, but I just think that makes sense. Okay. Oh man, J.K. Simmons is freaking hilarious in this. When he's like, damn time-traveling robots always covering their tracks. That shit was great. I read that he ad-libbed most of his lines. I thought that he was really, really fun. Here's another moment in the movie where this scene could have been a, oh no, but you know he's a fucking Terminator. But when Pops comes out and shoots John right when he walks out, and they give that like, oh my God, I told you he's a Terminator, you should have listened kind of thing. The audience could have been like, oh shit, is Pops gonna turn on him now? This would be crazy. No, he's a Terminator. So I thought that was, the fucking trailer kills me. Pops is starting to get so old that he's malfunctioning. It's kind of sad. And them having they're having a father meeting the boyfriend of his daughter for the first time kind of relationship, where he's like giving him the stink eye and all that stuff. I think that stuff's all funny, and they're like, cock measuring with who can put the bullets in faster and all that stuff. That stuff actually really landed for me. I thought it was really funny. John starts to think that he doesn't need his parents, that because he already exists in that timeline, this timeline doesn't need to actually happen, which I'm with him on this because of the many different timelines that would have been established. That timeline's parents had already had him. And the whole Michael J. Fox Back to the Future, if I get my parents here, I won't exist and I'll fade from existence. Well, you would have already done it. That's the time paradox. But that's in one timeline and this is multiple. So who fucking knows? I think that once you are, and you can't be undone. So, but then that's the whole point of the Terminator franchise, right? If they go back in time and kill John, then this would have never happened. But the paradox is that he did happen, and sending them back and giving them capability of a time machine is what made him exist in the first place. If you wouldn't have sent back the Terminator and they wouldn't have had to send back Kyle Reese, then John Connor would have never existed. So in doing it, they actually create John Connor, which is the paradoxical irony of the whole series. Anyway, okay, moving on. I'm hoping anyone's being able to follow this. I'm all over the place, but I think I'm making sense. Pops makes brass knuckles essentially with these magnets that don't let his cells displace the little inner thing, whatever the hell he is. He's like nanotech, like Tony Stark's suit or something. We get a get outline here, which I dig. There's no way Kyle and Sarah survived that bus crash. Absolutely no fucking chance in hell, but whatever. The Terminator is shown to be 6'6" in this jail sequence, and Sarah Connor is shown to be like 5'2", 5'3". I like the way they shot it to where she just looks like this little cute little girl, but she's such a badass, so it's cool. A lot of fun one-liners that I had said, and I really dig them in this. The helicopter scene is BS for so many reasons. I don't even want to get into all the reasons that the scene is ridiculous, but like the freaking helicopter is straight to the ground. It's flipping down, up, around, getting shot. Like, it's such bullshit. But I do love that Arnold jumps out and he's like, I'll be back. He has this great one, I'll be back line, and then jumps out as like a torpedo and goes straight through his John's helicopter. I thought that was really cool. I liked the chase sequence. It's fun. Genisys is Matt Smith's character from the opening. As soon as you put Matt Smith in the background, the Doctor Who guy, people are going to be like, wait, why is he there? He's got to be important. And of course he ends up being important. The John, I like the phasing John Connor, where he's like multiple different John Connors, and then he does those punches through Pops, and he's just like hitting him as he's going like matter through him. I thought that was badass. I was like, oh wow, that's completely new for sure. And when Pop says, Kyle, protect my Sarah, fucking I wanted to cry, dude. That straight up was like, oh, that's so sad. Protect my Sarah. That's Dad, man. That's Pops. Great, Kim. I love that stuff. So good. And I like that after they defeat everything, Kyle tells her, he informs her in that moment. Before that, they never really were a thing. But he's like, you now have the ability for the first time in your life to choose what you get to do from here on. Like, this is your future, and she takes that opportunity to kiss him like, okay, I didn't want you when it was forced, but now that it's my choice, I choose you. She's somebody who doesn't like to be told what to do. So once she has the choice to do it, then she chooses to be with Kyle, which I dug. And then we get the upgraded pops here. So the first time we get to see Arnold's T800 become a T1000, a liquid metal upgraded version, which I thought was pretty cool. You would think he would come out and be his original, like, young self, but he doesn't care about that, man. He's not vain. He looks how he looks. That would be the last thing he would care about. And then they got to go, of course, talk to Kyle and tell him to remember the Genisys line so he can send it, like, consciously through time. But that's just it. The alternate timelines then create memories within the characters if the timeline splits. So do they have the memories of all the different movies and all? Like, oh man, your mind could go fucking crazy thinking about that. And they stop Judgment Day here, but it's a happy ending and they drive off into the sunset. But then there's a post-credit sequence where Genisys actually still is functioning, and who knows, maybe it went online, but we'll never know because the sequel never got made. So there you go, the Terminator franchise covered and done. So I will be covering Dark Fate in a spoiler-free review here in a few days. I really look forward to it. I wish I could cover the Sarah Connor Chronicles, but that's way too much. I just know that I really enjoyed the show, and it got cut off way too soon. 2 seasons was not enough. I dug the show, but wish there was more. Anyways, all right, adios.